about 2 kids in every classroom has a food allergy, and about 3 million children in the United States have a peanut allergy.
His food allergies are severe, they are serious, they are life-threatening. If he goes into an allergic reaction, every minute counts.
In children, the severe reactions are primarily pulmonary, respiratory. They get bad asthma attack and then can go on and drop their blood pressure and go into full shock.
Nobody actually knows for sure what's the problem. It's not a GMO peanut as some have suspected. It's just the peanut, and we're getting more and more severe reactions.
We're slowly desensitizing or retraining her immune system to not react to the peanut protein. And this may not seem a lot to many people, but it's a huge difference to someone who has a life-threatening peanut allergy.
Food allergies and sensitivities are on the rise in the U.S., and that trend doesn't show any signs of slowing down. Despite scientists' best efforts to uncover the causes, adverse reactions to food affect millions of households, school lunchrooms, restaurant menus, the foods we buy at the grocery store. It just goes on and on. Today, these food-related problems are so common that even if you don't have one yourself, you probably know someone who does. It's especially challenging for parents of young children who have the most severe types of food allergies.
We discovered Zayden's food allergy when he was about 1.
I'm allergic to peanuts a lot. If I have one, I'll have a really hard time breathing a lot.
Ashley Smith says her son Zayden's first-time reaction to just a tiny amount of peanut butter was truly scary.
It was almost immediate. He started hives. The one eye went completely shut. The breathing seemed to have a hard time with the breathing.
Ashley gave Zayden an antihistamine that helped him recover. Then she took him to the doctor.
Life changed dramatically after finding out that he had a lot of food allergies. And so we had milk, we had egg, we had soy, we had latex, the nuts, peanuts.
Zayden's parents had to adjust to the reality that many of the foods they had taken for granted had suddenly become potentially lethal.
I could probably count the number of foods that he could eat on my hand because we were pretty minimized on what we could choose for him. I've learned a lot about food labeling. I've learned a lot about cross-contamination. So now he cannot have anything that is manufactured in a facility. You learn how to live with it. You learn, what's safe, what's not.
Unfortunately, Ashley's experience with Zayden is much more common than it was for parents in decades past.
Since about the turn of the century, 2000, we've seen a very significant increase in several of the different food allergies.
Dr. Hugh Sampson is director of the Jaffe Food Allergy Institute at Mount Sinai School of Medicine in New York City.
Peanut allergy, we've seen really a tripling in the prevalence in the United States. And this is similar in such countries as Australia and United Kingdom and several of the European countries. We're also seeing a major increase in things like tree nut allergy, sesame allergy, and several others that really were not that prevalent back in the late 80s and 90s.
There's still milk and egg.
If you look at young children, milk and egg are still the most common food allergies, followed by peanut and then tree nuts and some of the other foods. One of the major differences with milk and egg allergy is that about 80% of children will eventually outgrow their egg or milk allergy, whereas only about 15% will outgrow peanut allergy and about 10% of young children who have a tree nut allergy will outgrow that.
And it's not just children who are suffering in greater numbers. Food allergies can emerge at any time during a person's life, even in adults who never had a problem.
And we're not quite clear why that is. Typically, it's more things like seafood. Sometimes some of the spices are sesame, mustard, where we see that happening more often. We wonder whether or not it can be associated with a recent viral infection or something that's caused some kind of alteration in the immune system, which just happened.
The immune system's role in allergic reactions is all important. In fact, Medical science defines a food allergy based on its ability to provoke an immune response that can be measured in a blood test.
When you are allergic to milk, how we define it, it's when your immune system reacts to the protein.
Dr. Stephanie Leonard specializes in pediatric food allergies at Rady Children's Hospital in San Diego.
Usually within 2 hours, you may develop rash, swelling, difficulty breathing, coughing, vomiting, or diarrhea. And that's what we call an immediate type reaction. And your immune system makes an antibody to the protein in the food that causes that reaction.
Worst case, a severe allergic reaction to food can cause anaphylactic shock and even death. The only quick antidote is an injection of the hormone epinephrine. Families that have to deal with severe food allergies usually have epinephrine injectors like this within reach at all times. It's that serious.
Hey Raina, how are you today?
Good, how are you?
Oh, it's good to see you.
11-year-old Raina Winter knows all about her immune system's response to allergy-causing proteins. Raina was only a year old when doctors confirmed her peanut allergy.
The challenging part is when they're little and they can't look out for themselves. They pick up any kind of food, any kind of candy is tempting, any cookie is tempting. There's peanuts in like everything. And even if they're not in everything, it says it may contain it, so you kind of just don't know.
Go ahead and take a big breath for me. And again. Good.
So why is this happening? Why are food allergies so much more common now than they were 20 or 30 years ago? As Dr. Hugh Sampson at New York Jaffe's Food Allergy Institute explained to me, there's no single answer, but scientists are pursuing several major theories, and one of the most intriguing is called the hygiene hypothesis.
The concept around the hygiene hypothesis is that there's been a change in our interaction with the bacteria and various organisms that both live inside our body and on our skin. As we have attempted to become cleaner with antibacterial soaps and immunizations, we have altered this relationship in such a way that we now are more susceptible to allergies that we weren't in the past.
He also says that overuse of antibiotics in very young children could be affecting their immune systems by destroying healthy gut bacteria. Another possible cause of the rise in the allergies, C-section births.
In the US, for example, 35% of babies are born by C-section. So they're not acquiring those bacteria from the mother, and there's good evidence showing that these babies are at higher risk for allergy.
And then there's the theory that some children are developing allergies because they don't get enough sun.
We know that vitamin D is very important in the development of the immune system, and one of the greatest sources of vitamin D is actually sunshine. And we know that children today are very different than before, where they used to be outside all the time in the summer. Now lots of them are in doing video games and on the computer and things like that. So their sun exposure is down considerably, and we actually monitor our children in clinic for vitamin D levels and not infrequently find that they're not adequate.
But now a relatively new field of research into food allergies is asking a different question. Is it possible to train someone's immune system not to react to the proteins that cause the allergic response?
Hi, good morning. How's everybody? Good. Good morning, Raina. How are you? Yeah.
Today, Raina Winter has an appointment at a medical research center in San Diego. This is much more than a routine checkup for her. For the past 6 months, she's been participating in a clinical trial to test the concept of oral immunotherapy.
We're one site among about 8 sites in the US that are trying to retrain the immune system to stop reacting to something that's harmless, like food or peanut.
Dr. Leonard is the principal investigator for the Southern California portion of the study.
The goal is to try to protect kids who are allergic to peanut to possible cross-contamination, in that either they wouldn't have a reaction if they were accidentally exposed to peanut, or at least it would be a less severe reaction.
The technique used in the trial is called a food challenge. And as Raina found out during her first clinical session, they weren't kidding.
In her first food challenge, she reacted to 30 milligrams of peanut protein, which is about 1/10 of a peanut.
It was scary for her when they told her she was going to get the EpiPen, She was very nervous, had a little freak out, I would say.
Don't want to get an EpiPen stabbed in my leg. It kind of feels like you're getting stapled in your leg for 10 seconds. But then the after effects is just like tingly. Everything goes tingly. With the tingly goes away, almost with your reaction. And then you just get an adrenaline rush.
Mom, let's go get our stuff together.
Every other week, Raina receives a measured dose of powdered peanut protein under the watchful eyes of research manager Susan Smith.
We're going to put it in a cup today.
Getting the dose right is extremely important. Too much peanut protein and Raina's immune system might overreact.
Okay, Mom.
Next, Tara Winter adds the most important ingredients. Most important to Raina, that is.
Today we're using Ovaltine and milk. We like to mix it up so she doesn't get sick of it.
Okay, here you go. And then whenever you're ready. All right, let me just take a look here. Looks good.
There are a lot of things that we're still working out. We want to make sure that it's a safe treatment and that it's effective. We do see some side effects, mostly mild, but there is always a risk of more severe symptoms with the treatment that we're doing. And so that's something that we are working on to make it as safe and as practical as possible.
Big ah. Ah.
10 minutes after Raina drank the peanut protein, pediatric allergist Alex Grainer looks for any signs of trouble.
Do you know how much you're up to?
300
Do you know how much that is in terms of peanuts?
from peanut.
That's good. Doesn't sound like a lot, but for people who have... Perfect, it's good enough. Yeah, for people who have peanut allergies, a peanut is a, what do you think? Is that a lot or a little?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
At this point, she's on a plateau, I think it's called, so she will stay at 300 milligrams for 3 months, and then she does another food challenge, and then she can go up to, I think, like 1,000 milligrams if it works out for her.
But here's the catch with oral immunotherapy. In most cases, it's a temporary fix and not a cure.
Raina will be on the oral immunotherapy each day for the next 1 to 2 years. We do see that if you miss, for example, 3 doses or 3 days of your doses, you may start to see symptoms to come back.
Ovaltine and milk.
To make sure Raina's immune system continues to tolerate peanut protein, she and Tara go through the same process at home 7 days a week.
We have to empty all the peanut flour into food. Can't be hot because that changes something about it. She needs to take it around the same time every day. We've tried everything, trying to mask the flavor, because although I love the taste of peanuts, she's allergic and she is pretty much repulsed by the taste, so it's difficult for her. And we have put it in chocolate pudding, we've put it in yogurts, we've put it in like a cookie batter spread, we've put it in gelato and ice cream and shakes. What else? We've tried it all, and we usually go through something for as long as we can tolerate it, and then she can't stand it anymore, so we have to find something new. There you go. Thanks, Mom. We feel like at this point, she's protected against cross-contamination, which is like what we're really striving for.
Some of the great things we're hearing about patients in these trials is that it decreases their anxiety on a daily basis when it comes to having a food allergy. That means that maybe that child can go and have a sleepover, go to their friend's house for a sleepover, or they can go to a birthday party, and even though they're bringing their own food, they're not worried about the food around them.
At the Jaffe Food Allergy Institute in New York, little Penelope Smith is helping Dr. Hugh Sampson and other researchers try an even newer approach to oral immunotherapy.
Typically, when we do studies related to the FDA, you have to start in adults and you work your way down. And this is the youngest group that we've been allowed to do. And the other reason for doing it is we think we can have a bigger effect on the immune system if we hit it early, because her immune system has not fully developed. And we're hoping that this allergy may be more reversible if we start early.
How long has she been
A
on it?
little over a year.
So she started out at 30 milligrams, which is a few specks of the peanut.
Okay.
About 1/10 of a peanut, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, maybe not even quite
Not
that
even
much.
that,
Yeah, it's pretty small. And she's worked her way up. So she's now, let's see, at 1,700 milligrams. So she's, wow, you're doing really well. You're getting about 7 or 8 peanuts.
Even so, Penelope's immune system still reacts to peanut protein when the doses are increased.
Her symptom is a sore throat.
Okay.
Well, what do you call it?
A rock.
A rock in your throat.
You always feel badly when they have symptoms, but a lot of times parents feel bad, but they actually, in a way, feel a little bit liberated because they understand now what to be looking for.
Taking an infant on an airplane with a peanut allergy is not fun.
Right.
It's not fun. But now we're taking a trip to California this summer, and we feel really safe.
Tree nuts, peanuts, and asthma.
But food challenges and oral immunotherapy aren't available for every child with an allergy problem. And for parents like Ashley Smith, they're also not worth the risk.
For Zayden, with him being so severe, that isn't something that we would be able to do.
Instead, Ashley focuses her efforts on keeping him away from every possible source of peanut protein and on educating people at locations like the school he attends. It's a mission she shares with members of a group called No Nuts Moms.
The purpose for the No Nuts Moms group is basically just to create a community. We want to create awareness, and we just want to support others who are on this journey with food allergies, because it can get hard. I hope for Zayden to be able to walk into an area where we don't have to worry about an airborne reaction or a contact reaction.
Unless someone figures out a cure, children like Zayden, Penelope, and Raina could remain allergic to peanuts and other foods for the rest of their lives.
If those proteins are detected by the plasma.
But recent research suggests there could be another way to solve at least part of the problem of peanut allergies. The idea is to modify peanut flour so the protein won't cause an allergic reaction.
Can we take peanut proteins in the form of flour, peanut flour, and complex that flour with phytochemicals from cranberries, blueberries, some of the fruits that have health protective properties anyway?
Dr. Ann Lila is director of the Plants for Human Health Institute at North Carolina State University. She and her research team were working on a completely different project when they came up with the idea of combining the protein in peanut flour with phytochemicals from fruit.
And then if we do that, how would an allergic person react to that protein? That was our original idea.
As a veteran biochemist, she had a hunch that the phytochemicals would mask the protein in the peanut flour so that it wouldn't trigger an allergic reaction.
The first test turned out positive. The second test turned out positive. Using the blood of allergic patients, we saw that there was not binding when exposed to the otherwise allergenic protein. Taking it into an animal model, everything positive all the way through. And so it was just amazing that a very simple complexing process, or a simple binding process between the protein and the plant phytochemicals, could actually make that protein non-allergic.
Dr. Lila and her team published their findings in 2014, and now they're expanding their research to include proteins from other allergy-causing foods like milk, eggs, and soy. One of the most intriguing things about this research is that it's based on using the best properties of everyday foods.
This was actually something that was known back in ancient Greece. Hippocrates said, "Let food be your medicine." This is just a peanut flour. It's a commercial product. A manufacturer will use it to make a peanut bar, a high-protein peanut bar, like a snack bar. And it tastes good. It's really delicious, but it's even better when you complex it with fruit phytochemical, because then you have the peanut flavor and the fruit flavor at the same time. So it's actually really good flavor, and it's all food. And yet, it is not provoking an allergic reaction in a sensitive person.
But as simple as this process may sound, Dr. Lila doesn't want people thinking that they can just throw some peanut powder and blueberries together at home and expect to duplicate her lab's results.
We would never recommend just trying something. We would want our formulation to be used in a clinic to really establish whether it's going to work. People react differently to any medicine, any cure, any food. Your genetics will determine how well you respond to a treatment. Will it work with your body as well as someone else's? That all has to be established. We have a proposal in to work with humans to test allergies in humans. So we're very, very excited about just taking it to that next level.
If it works out the way she hopes, before long, we could see modified, non-allergenic peanut flour in baked goods, spreads, health bars, even smoothies. One more point Dr. Lila wants to make. Whatever's causing people to be allergic to peanuts, it's not the peanuts' fault.
Nobody actually knows for sure what's the problem. It's not a GMO peanut as some have suspected. It's really not. It's just the peanut, and we're getting more and more severe reactions.
Anytime you get a group together for a meal these days, it's almost guaranteed a few people will say, "I can't eat that. It makes me feel bad." Some call it food sensitivity. Others say it's food intolerance. Though the symptoms may appear to be similar, an intolerance does not involve an immune response, but a sensitivity does, though not as severe as an allergy. Some experts call them delayed onset food sensitivities, though they don't always trigger an immediate immune response and generally aren't considered life-threatening. But does that make them any less important to the people who suffer from them? No, it doesn't.
People will come into my office and say, every time I eat this food, it makes me feel tired, or it gives me a headache, or my stomach hurts. There is some data that up to 30% of adults believe that they have some sort of food sensitivity or intolerance.
With an intolerance, it's not really involving the immune system. It can be related to your ability to break certain things down. We have enzymes in our gastrointestinal tract which help us break down the sugar in milk products, for example. And as we age, about 80% of the population eventually loses that activity. That then generates a lot of gas, which gives the people a sensation of bloating and cramping, and some people end up with diarrhea as well. That would be something that would be an intolerance.
With an intolerance, is a person ever able to consume that food again?
To a certain extent, many people, even though they can't tolerate large amounts of milk products, can tolerate small amounts. And oftentimes they can tolerate certain aged cheeses because a lot of the lactose has been broken down, or they may be able to tolerate yogurt where much of the lactose has been broken down by the bacteria.
If you take the food out of the diet, you should see the symptoms go away, and then when you put the food back in the diet, the symptoms should come back. And that is the best way that we can determine whether or not someone really has an intolerance or sensitivity. When you have a true food allergy, every time you eat that food, you're likely to have a reaction. And those reactions can be life-threatening.
With millions of people suffering from food allergies, you'd think that major pharmaceutical companies would be rushing to develop new drugs to treat those allergies. But Stephanie Leonard says that's not happening.
We are trying to use a food as a medication, and it's hard to get a patent on a food for a pharmaceutical company to then produce the medication and get it through the FDA, the proper regulatory systems, to then be able to be given out to the general population.
One of the few actual products on the horizon is a patch that's worn on the skin. And the experimental version of the patch contains minute amounts of peanut protein.
It seemed a little unnatural.
For now, children like Raina Winter, who are enrolled in the immunotherapy study, are the lucky ones. As much as she despises having to take the powdered protein every day, it does give her a margin of safety if she's accidentally exposed to peanuts. Tara and Raina, I want to thank you for being here today to share with us your story about peanut allergy, because we're hoping to help lots of people and bring awareness to this situation and the new therapy that you've been going through. You're up to 1 peanut, so you're going to stay at that 1 peanut. You're not going to go further than the 2 are on up to more peanuts. Why?
Because, well, going up to 14 peanuts, it's a lot of powder. To go up to the higher doses is like they can't even do capsules anymore. They have to do like pouches of powder.
And the pouches of powder don't taste good? Is that what it is?
My doctor said that it's my body's natural reaction to hate the taste because, I'm allergic to it.
Tara, do you feel safe now with the 1 peanut, stopping at the 1 peanut?
Yeah, we gave her the option. If she wanted to do the high dose portion of the study, we would have completely supported her and done it with her and helped her through that. But it's hard for her, it's a daily process, and some days she just doesn't feel like it, and she's busy and she has sports and she has homework, and we just didn't want to add, that kind of stress for her.
Did you ever feel out of place or anything? Did you ever have feelings of feeling different or anything like that with your friends?
If someone brought in, say, peanut butter cookies and then, for their birthday or whatever, but it wasn't terrible because I had like my little private stash of the dessert. My favorite dessert in the classroom, so when everyone else was eating their peanut butter cookies, I got my favorite dessert, so that wasn't terrible.
Do you even have them in your house?
Sometimes when the kids get home from, Halloween's obviously, she comes home from Halloween, there's all kinds of peanut stuff in there. We have to filter through it all. She does a lot of trading with our neighbors.
Yeah, we donate all the peanut stuff to our neighbors, and they give us all the candy that they don't particularly like, but we do.
Raina, you're an inspiration because you have chosen to do this, even though you really hate the peanut powder, that you're doing it anyway. What's amazing to me is to get up to 1 peanut, and now you don't have to worry about being on a plane or in a sleepover. So getting up to 1 peanut is, I guess, quite a bit.
Yeah, it is.
Well, Tara and Raina, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story on Natural Health Breakthroughs. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having
You're
us.
welcome. And thank you for watching. I'm Brenda Watson, and I'll see you next time.